Hi everyone, Madison here with Health by Ratio, and in this video we are going to talk about how to relieve and ultimately resolve elbow tendonitis. Health by Ratio is an online group of licensed physical therapists, orthopedic movement specialists, and corrective exercise coaches that work holistically together to create programs for our clients to get them out of recurring and chronic pains and injuries and move them back to the active lives that they love to live. So, getting into today's topic on resolving elbow tendonitis, we're going to go through some techniques we can do to get immediate relief to this area. There are going to be some mobilizations that we're going to do, and all we need is something like a ball. This is a lacrosse ball, a golf ball, tennis ball, a firmer tennis ball could work. Alternatively, something that rolls but is fairly acute. A foam roller is a little too broad, but maybe like a rolling pin or a water bottle, something along those lines could work as well. Wine bottle potentially could work a little bit. It's a little broad, but that could work. We could work it. Even your own thumb could be applicable to this. And then I'm going to go through a couple of stretches that we can do. And if you like, body weight is totally fine, but if you also have access to a resistance band, that can make this that much more effective, make these stretches really, really good. But before going into these mobility techniques, really quick, I just want to address why why tendonitis of the elbow shows up, where it even comes from. And 9 out of 10 times, it's stemming from the elbow or like forearm musculature and musculature above the elbow, like basically the arm, the muscles of the arm are being over recruited in comparison to what we want the shoulder to actually be capable of doing. So, for instance, obviously, like we call tendonitis right here is often nicknamed tennis elbow because it's so common with tennis. Well, for many of us that play tennis or play racket sports, that kind of thing, we tend to hit a lot of forehands, for instance, not as much backhand. And also throughout our daily lives, we do a lot of stuff that brings our shoulders forward, whether that's typing, whether it's on our devices, whether it's eating, driving, whatever. We're in this position a lot. So we start to lose some of our shoulder girdle's ability to retract. We don't get the scapula gets stuck so that we can't retract back the shoulder. So we miss the recruitment of our super big, powerful mid-back muscles. And when we hit a backhand, like I always like to think of how Roger Federer hits a backhand. Like it looks like he's doing this like perfect reverse fly as he opens up and he hits the ball. So excuse Stella moving around, but he's always opening fully up as he's hitting the ball. And for those of us that have missed that ability to open up the shoulder girdle and recruit those mid-back musculatures, we end up over relying on the forearm itself and or the arm itself, like the extensors of the elbow. We end up over recruiting those to compensate for what's missing in this big back musculature. So, and same thing goes if we have like golfer's elbow, for instance, or thrower's elbow. That can be, again, we're so locked up here that we've lost the ability to retract, to elongate this big chest muscle and use that to throw our ball or to like have a good postural position as we go back into our golf swing. And instead, we're caved forward. So, we're, again, having to over recruit the arm itself and not the entire shoulder girdle. Well, I talked about why. That's often because of restrictions that are happening around the shoulder girdle itself, but that's not always just the root causes. Often the shoulder girdle, thoracic spine region gets tight because of dysfunctions that are happening down at the core, especially when we're doing single-sided stuff so much. Rotating to one side over and over and over again, using one arm over and over and over again, it creates imbalances at the core, which affect how the shoulder operate. And if we have those imbalances at the hips, that's what affects the core. So like if I'm consistently moving to one side or carrying things to one side, that means I'm going to have an imbalance and potential dysfunctions at my hips. They can stem all the way down to the ground. So basically, I've worked with countless clients of ours that have dealt with elbow tendonitis, and it's actually stemming from what's happening all the way down at their feet, which is impacting their hips, which is impacting their core, which is impacting their shoulder, and so now their elbow is over recruiting because their shoulder girdle isn't functioning the right way with the core, with the hips, with feet, et cetera, et cetera. So to resolve this, we really want to take a look at the entire body. The whole body's interconnected, and often we get pigeonholed into just treating the pain spot itself, and we think the elbow is the thing that needs all the attention. Well, actually, it might be stuff that's happening in the ankles or the hips or the T-spine and blah, 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 blah to truly resolve this. So these techniques that I'm going to go through today are going to help with us getting some relief, but they're not always going to resolve it completely. We're probably going to need to address some things that are happening down, up and down the kinetic chain to see what really is contributing to this. If you want some help on this, this is why my team and I offer free video assessments for everybody. We connect with you guys to go through a full range of movement patterns and that you do on a day-to-day basis, and range of motion and strength tests to really see how and why the body is doing what it's doing from head to toe. And then we give you a game plan on what you need to do to get your entire body moving back to full range of stable motion. So if you're interested in that, click below. You'll see the link to our calendar, all that good stuff. Now let's jump into what we can do to actually relieve this area of the elbow in the moment. So take out whatever tool you want to use for this, and we're going to go to a counter or a desk or something we can place that guy on. And then if you're dealing with more tennis elbow, the outside of the elbow here, we're going to work on the top of the forearm. If you're dealing with the irritation to more the inside of the elbow, we're going to work underneath the forearm. Either way, though, it's going to be the same kind of sequence. So we're going to get the ball. And I will say, we don't want to apply pressure to the specific area that is sore. So if this is where I'm feeling my irritation, I'm not going to work right there. I'm going to work just below this thing. And anything from the wrist to just below that sore area is fair game here. So I'm going to apply some pressure with my other arm and leaning towards this guy. And I'm going to explore. I can roll the ball around a little bit side to side to kind of see where I need to get into. I'm searching for a hurt so good spot. I can roll it, like I said, down a little bit more towards my wrist here. I'm finding any hurt so good spot. Once I find it, and you might find a bunch, like you might be like, oh yeah, that hurts, that. All these guys are fair game. Wherever you feel it, that's what we're going to commit to. It doesn't matter. Anytime we feel that hurt so good tension, it's all connected to that elbow. So it's all fair game to release. So first, I want to just breathe through my belly. Use my diaphragm. That relaxes my nervous system here, calms me down a little bit, allows me to release some tension in this. And then after about 2-3 deep breaths, I'm going to start doing a contract and relax sequence to this. So I'm going to take a deep breath in, hold my breath for 5 seconds. And while I do, I'm just going to make a fist to tighten the tension or to tighten the muscle tissues that I'm working on. Now, during that 5 seconds and during that tightening, I'm not going to apply that extra pressure to the ball. I want to ease up the pressure. But I'm trying to pump blood to this area by tightening the tissue. Then I'm going to exhale and reapply my pressure and go back into it. Then I'm going to spend 10, 20 seconds scrubbing into the area. So I'll kind of move up and down. I'll scrub side to side. I can move my wrist around. I'm just going to kind of create some mobility to the region, some friction to the tissues, and massage into it, essentially. So we're going to do that together right now. Deep breath in. Tighten it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now exhale. Melt into it. Start scrubbing around, moving the hand around, moving the wrist up and down, side to side, all the above. We're just getting blood flow and creating friction to the area. Now, you want to keep doing this sequence until that hurt so good tension might have been, like, say on the pain scale, it was like a 7 out of 10 on the pain that you were working into. You're going to work that area until it goes from a 7 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10 or 3 out of 10. Once it relaxes a little bit and you realize, that's not so painful for me to be on anymore. That's the moment to move on. You can now explore a different spot if you want. You can work to a different area of the forearm. So, like I said, this is applicable to the back of the forearm. It's applicable to underneath the forearm. All like same sequence. The other area that we want to get to is above the elbow itself. So that's going to be the tissues along this tricep and potentially along the bicep as well. So this, we're just going to position more of the upper arm on the ball, and I can again kind of explore from the side to more the inside of the area or the outside of the upper arm. All this is fair game. And I can also work higher up the arm as well. So I can work this thing more towards my armpit, basically. So any of that is going to be fair game for me to work. And once I find my hurt so good tension, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to relax with breathing into my diaphragm for a bit. Then I'm going to contract this area with my deep breath and 5-second hold by just straightening out my elbow. So just by extending my elbow straight, that's going to tighten up that muscle tissue. And then I'm going to exhale, melt into it. And then I can bend and extend my elbow a little bit. I can scrub into this area. And that will allow me to massage in, create the friction, create the blood flow for this thing to eventually relax a little bit. It might take a minute, it might take 5 minutes, somewhere in between there. It's going to go from that 7 or so out of 10 down to a 4 out of 10 or whatever it is. So the last area can be the actual bicep itself. Easiest way to do this is with your hands. You can bend your elbow, kind of relaxing, creating some slack to the bicep, and then just taking your hands and kind of compressing and pinching this area. And we're going to I'm primarily pressing in between the fingertips themselves. So my thumb and my kind of index and middle finger are creating kind of the most pressure here. And I'm seeing any hurt so good spots along this area. Then same sequence, nice deep belly breathing for about 10, 20 seconds or so. Then we're going to take a deep breath in. I'm going to contract the area just by kind of flexing the bicep. And while I'm doing that, I'm not really applying much pressure to the area at all with my hands. After 5 seconds, I'll relax and then push back into it. And that's when I'm going to massage into the area, just kind of scrubbing in, kneading into the tissue a little bit. And I can move the elbow a little bit around to create some different blood flow to the area, all that good stuff. And work it until this thing relaxes a little bit. That's going to help us get some massage work to actually release the tissues that are connected to the elbow, giving it some slack itself. And then how I can stretch this thing out. This can be done just body weight, but a very effective way to get a great stretch to this area is with a resistance band. You want to be able to connect it to something on like ground level with you, and you want it to be able to loop around your wrist itself. So there are a couple of different ways that we can do this stretch. If I have the band looped around the underneath my hand here, pulling my wrist forward, I can plant my back of my palm on the ground, and now I'm going to start to feel this stretch that comes up along the backside of my arm. And I can make this dynamic by sitting back on my heels and then rocking forward. And I can change up the angle a little bit. I'm going to pivot so you guys can see me this way. I'm going to change up the angle a little bit where I can sit back to the left or I can sit back to the right. I can change the stretch of that top of my forearm in different angles. Awesome way to open up. The alternative to that is if I want to get to the underneath portion of the forearm, I'm going to get that band wrapped around the back, the top of my wrist, pulling me forward. And now I'm going to plant my palm on the ground. Fingertips are pointed towards me. And same thing, I'm going to sit back towards my heels. I'm going to feel this nice stretch come along the front side of my forearm here. And I can, again, change up the angles as I am doing this. I can lean to the left, lean to the right, and that will open all of this up. And it's complementing what we just released. So we did all this massage work to these tissues, and then we are pulling them open with this great stretch, and the resistance band kind of opens up the wrist even more, feels much looser at the end of this sequence here. So guys, that's what I wanted to cover in terms of relief techniques. To kind of complement this on the stability side is potentially working on your shoulder girdle itself in terms of its strength. You might need to be working on the mobility of your shoulder girdle to free up the scapula, free up the shoulder, the rotator cuff, so that you can do things like rowing motions, external rotation of the shoulder. These kinds of exercises can help recruit those bigger muscles up here that we want to be doing the work and not have to over rely on the arm. But if you feel like there's other things that are potentially going on, like if you want to really get to the root causes of what's impacting this shoulder and not allowing it to function correctly, which is causing this elbow to over recruit, then let us know. We'd be happy to help. You can connect with us on a video assessment, and we can take a look at your entire body from head to toe. If you like this video, feel free to let us know in the comments. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. Obviously, like, subscribe, all the above, and hope you have a great rest of your day.